and we're going to pass H.R. 2 next week, and we're going to deliver our promise to the American people to eliminate, to repeal Obamacare. The American people have spoke loudly. They don't like this bill. The Democratic majority in the Senate and the President have one last chance to make amends. I think they'll do it, and I yield back.
The gentleman from Georgia yields back. The gentlelady from New York.
Madam Speaker, I yield 1 minute. The gentleman from Massachusetts, Mr. Markey.
The gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized for 1 minute.
This debate is about health care versus don't care. The Democrats' health care law lowers prescription drug costs, helps middle-class families pay for health coverage for their sick children, and expands health care for 32 million more Americans, reducing the deficit by $143 billion. The Democrats' health care law helps Grandma afford her prescription drugs. The Republicans don't care about Grandma. They want to take back the drug benefits in the new law. GOP used to stand for Grand Old Party. Now it stands for Grandmas out of prescriptions. The Republicans don't care repeal shows they don't care about sick children with medical bills, pushing families into bankruptcy. They don't care about Grandma and Grandpa who need help paying for prescription drugs. Vote down this rule so that we can help Grandma, sick children, and middle-class families struggling to pay for health care.
The gentleman from California.
Madam Speaker, at this point, I'm happy to yield 1 minute to another hardworking member of this freshman class, my new friend from San Antonio, Mr. Canseco.
Gentleman from Texas is recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, I rise today in support of the rule and in support of the underlying legislation, the repealing of the job-killing Health Care Act. 10 months ago, President Obama and his allies in the Democrat-controlled House and Senate committed legislative malpractice when they jammed through the Congress and into the law a Washington takeover of health care. They did so despite the overwhelming opposition of the American people. Since its enactment into law, what was already an unpopular law has only continued to become more unpopular. There is no doubt that we need to reform health care in America. However, it is not done by assaulting individual liberties guaranteed in our Constitution, bankrupting our children and grandchildren, and putting Washington bureaucrats in personal relationships between our doctors and our patients. Repealing the health care bill will also help encourage job growth to get our economy back on track. Our economy is not suffering from a capital crisis. It is suffering from a confidence crisis. Mr. Chairman, may I?
Madam Speaker, I'm happy to yield my friend an additional 30 seconds.
Gentleman's recognized for an additional 30 seconds.
Thank you. Thank you. Policies enacted in Washington, like the health care bill, have injected uncertainty into our economy that has eroded the confidence of Americans to start new businesses or expand current ones to create jobs. The American people have made it clear they want the health care law repealed and replaced with common-sense alternatives that will lower the cost of health care while also increasing quality and access. After meeting and speaking with thousands of Texans in the 23rd District over the past year, this is their message. Repealing and replacing the health care bill is one of the promises made to American people in the Pledge to America. Today we are making good on that promise as we begin the work.
Time's expired.
Thank you. I support the rule, and I yield back my time.
Gentlelady from New York.
Speaker, I yield 1 minute. Gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Pallone.
Gentleman from New Jersey is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is nothing but a gag rule. I and so many of my colleagues on the Democratic side went up to the Rules Committee yesterday and asked for amendments, and they were almost all excluded from this rule. The Republican chairman of the committee says there's transparency. He says that there's an opportunity for participation. He can say it as many times as he wants, but it's simply not true. He also said that this was a commitment to the American people. There's no commitment to the American people here. The only commitment is to the insurance companies. They're the only ones that are going to gain from repeal of this very important legislation because they want to increase premiums and they want to institute discriminatory practices again against women, a woman perhaps who has breast cancer and a pre-existing condition and can't get insurance, or bring back those lifetime caps, or bring back those annual caps where people lose their insurance if they've had a serious operation and they try to go back again and they don't have insurance. Or perhaps the child who's up to 26 and who also will not be able to get on their parents' insurance policy again. So let me tell you here, the only one that benefits is the insurance company, not the American people.
Gentleman's time's expired. The gentleman from California.
Madam Speaker, may I inquire of my friend on the other side of the aisle how many speakers she has remaining?
Certainly, Madam Speaker, we've got every minute taken. I'm not sure everybody will going to show up.
And I'm
but
told that
right
there are
now
11
we have a
minutes
full
remaining.
complement of
I'm told that there are
speakers.
11 minutes remaining on your side, so I think with that we'll reserve the balance of our
All
time
right,
here.
then,
Gentleman
thank you.
reserves the
Thank you very
balance of
much.
his time. The gentlelady from New York.
I'm pleased to yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Michigan, the Dean of the House, and our leader on health care, Mr. Dingell.
The gentleman from the great state of Michigan is recognized for 1 minute.
Good morning.
Extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is
Madam
recognized.
Speaker, if you listen to the Republicans today, they're telling us, don't bother them with the facts. Their minds are made up. They're unaware of the fact that the Congressional Budget Office says that this is going to create 4 million jobs in the health care legislation. They don't tell us that the same Congressional Budget Office says that passage of H.R. 2 is going to increase the deficit by $140 billion. And they also are telling us the American people want this repealer. They don't. They understand what this means. It means that no longer are people going to get the protections that the health insurance bill gives. No more protection if the Republicans get their way against pre-existing conditions and rescissions, denying people health care because of something that happened to them down the road before. No longer will Americans be protected against frivolous and improper behavior by the insurance companies. This is a bad rule. It is bottomed not on facts but on fiction. And if this body is to legislate and legislate well, we have to have the facts, not fiction, not deceit, not misleading statements by our Republican colleagues.
Gentleman's time's expired. The gentleman from California continues to reserve the balance of his time. The gentlelady from New York.
Madam Speaker, I'm pleased to yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Doggett.
The gentleman from Texas is recognized for 1 minute.
If you're hit by a truck this afternoon, or your child contracts a dread disease, your future ought not to depend on the fine print in an insurance policy you didn't have anything to do with writing. No insurance monopoly should stand between you and your doctor. Unfortunately, the Republican Party has become little more than an arm of the insurance monopolies. They ask for a vote to further empower those monopolies, and we ask for a vote for American families to empower them. A vote to repeal is a vote to maintain health care costs as the leading cause of bankruptcy and credit card debt in this country. It is a vote to require seniors to pay more for prescription drugs, more for diabetes and cancer screenings. We can stand with American families today, or we can bend and kneel to the insurance monopolies. The choice is clear. Let's vote for American families. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from California. Gentleman from California continues to reserve the balance of his time. The gentlewoman from New York.
Madam Speaker, I yield 1 minute to the gentleman and former member of Rules, Mr. Welsh from Vermont.
Gentleman from Vermont is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, gentlelady from New York. I say, Madam Speaker, to my Republican colleagues, you campaigned effectively, you beat us good, you ran on the agenda of defeating health care and repealing it, now you're doing it. Own it. Admit what it is you are doing. This is not a campaign we're playing with fire. We're taking away health care benefits to make a real difference to our families. Number one, this bill will raise the deficit by $230 billion. Fiscal responsibility out the window. Second, things that matter to families. Their kids starting out getting a $10 an hour job without health care. They have it now in their parent policies. We're taking it away. Pre-existing conditions. You have cancer, want to buy insurance, you can. Repeal, you can't, you lose it. Lifetime caps. If you are with cancer or diabetes and you need that insurance, you lose it before you can go without it. In preventive care, we're taking it away from seniors who are trying to take care of themselves, get those free mammograms, keep the cost of health care down. You are taking it away. Admit it. Own it. State it proudly. It's what you campaigned on. It's what you're doing. But don't try to sugarcoat what this is about. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from California. The gentleman from California continues to reserve. The gentlelady from New York.
Madam Speaker, I yield 1 minute to the gentleman from California. Oh, the gentlelady, rather, Ms. Cass.
The gentlelady from California is recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, the issue facing the country is jobs. Instead of repealing health care, we should bring up a jobs bill like the China currency reform. And so I rise in strong opposition to the rule and the underlying bill. Today I speak on behalf of millions of Americans who are currently benefiting from the law and have yet been shut out of the legislative process. The way in which this legislation has been brought to this floor is a travesty. Before the Affordable Care Act became law in the House alone, we held nearly 80 hearings on the merits of reform. But this bill to repeal this life-saving law has not had a single hearing. Not one amendment has been allowed for an up or down vote here today. That's probably because the majority knows hearings would show that the law is already a real success. While we may disagree on the policy, we should be able to agree on the process. And this, my friends, is not the way to move legislation in the House of Representatives. We've all agreed upon that. And that's why I urge my colleagues, especially the new members who ran on the promise of ensuring an open Congress, vote against this rule. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. The gentleman from California. The gentleman from California. The gentleman from California continues to reserve. The gentlelady from New York.
Madam Speaker, I yield 1 minute. The gentleman from California, Mr. Garamendi.
The gentleman from California is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you. A lot of talk here on the floor about job killers. Actually, this bill, the Affordable Health Care Bill, creates some 400,000 jobs. The repeal of it is actually a killer of human beings. Some 40,000 Americans die every year for lack of health insurance. That's the reality. Repeal this bill and you're going to find more Americans dying. Also, you're doing away with this repeal of the Affordable Health Care Act, of the Patient's Bill of Rights. I was the insurance commissioner in California. I know exactly what the insurance companies will do if this repeal goes forward. They will continue to rescind policies. They will continue to deny coverage. They will continue to make sure that those 23-year-old children that have graduated from college will no longer be able to be on their parents' policies. This repeal is perhaps the worst thing you can do to Americans in their health care. And besides that, you will significantly increase the deficit by $230 billion. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from California. Gentleman continues to reserve. The gentlelady from New York.
Madam Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to insert into the record the figures from today's jobs report showing that since the enactment of health reform in March 2010, the economy has created 1.1 million private sector jobs.
Without objection.
And I yield 1 minute to the gentleman from California, Mr. Thompson.
The gentleman from California is recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, I rise in strong opposition to this rule that we're taking up today instead of focusing on jobs. The new majority in the House ran on the platform of fiscal responsibility. This bill flies in the face of that promise by adding $230 billion in the short run and over $1 trillion in the long run to our deficit. As important, under repeal, the Medicare Trust Fund will become insolvent by 2017. That's just 6 years away. Pushing Medicare over the cliff by passing this repeal breaks a sacred trust with our nation's seniors to help provide health care coverage in retirement after a lifetime of working and paying taxes. That's why I went to Rules Committee last night with two colleagues and offered an amendment to guarantee that repeal will not go forward unless it's certified that that repeal will not shorten the life of the Medicare Trust Fund. Sadly, the Rules Committee didn't allow us to help protect America's seniors. They didn't allow that amendment. We will not be able to vote for that amendment on the floor, and I urge a no vote on this rule.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from California.
Madam Speaker, may I inquire first how much time is remaining on each side, and then of my colleague how many more speakers she has?
7.5 for California. 5.5 for the gentlelady from New York.
Madam Speaker, then in light of that, I'm very happy to yield 1 minute to a physician, another hardworking member of this freshman class, the gentlewoman from Mount Kisco, New York, Ms. Hayworth.
The gentlelady from New York is recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, as a physician, I understand the profound importance of the goals of the health care bill passed last year to assure that all Americans have affordable, portable health insurance providing access to good medical care. I also understand the disruptions this law is already causing to our economy, the predictable side effects of legislative bad medicine, and the reason we must repeal and replace it. The bill we will be considering is in no way merely symbolic. It represents the true will of the American people, the majority of whom have stated time after time to this day that they reject this law. The House's vote to repeal is the first step towards assuring that all Americans will have the quality, choice, and innovation in health care that they expect and deserve. We need to proceed expeditiously, according to the rule on which we vote today, with the understanding that we are taking meaningful and crucial action. Thank you.
Gentlelady yields back. The gentlelady from New York.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Oregon, Mr. DeFazio.
The gentleman from Oregon recognized for 1 minute.
Previous speaker's right. This is not symbolic, it's real. In fact, the Republicans are going to allow the return of the worst abuses of the health insurance industry, pre-existing condition exclusions, taking away your policy when you get sick, lifetime and annual caps, throwing your kids off your policies. The Republican repeal of this bill would enable all those things for their very generous benefactors in the insurance industry. I haven't had a single constituent, and I know you haven't, begged you to bring back these abuses. Is that what you're doing? Is that what they want? You could take steps right now, in fact, to rein in this industry, and 400 people in this House voted for it last year. Let's take away their unfair exemption from antitrust law so they can't collude to drive up prices. They can't collude to take away your insurance. They can't collude to throw your kids off and all the other anti-competitive things that industry does. I offered that amendment to rules last night. The Republicans, despite the chairman of the committee and others having voted for it last year, would not allow it. This is an insurance industry bill, plain and simple.
Gentleman from California.
Madam Speaker, at this time I'm happy to yield 1 minute to another hardworking physician, a member of this new freshman class, the gentleman from South Pittsburgh, Tennessee, Dr. Desjarlais.
Gentleman from Tennessee is recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, today I rise to support the rule and to support the repeal of the Obama health care law. As a physician who has practiced medicine in rural Tennessee under the onerous TennCare law, I know firsthand that this law does not work. It restricts access to health care, it increases the cost, and it does not deliver on the promises the minority made when they passed the law. The American people have had their say. They do not want this bill. They want it repealed, and they want to see health care reform that will increase access and lower cost. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentlelady from New York.
Madam Speaker, I yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Green.
The gentleman from Texas is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank my colleague from the Rules Committee for allowing me to speak. I actually now ask consent to place my full statement in the record.
Without objection.
I rise in strong opposition to this rule on H.R. 2, Patients' Rights Repeal. Just yesterday, the Congressional Budget Office said that this repeal would cost $230 billion in additional federal debt. It's amazing. This is our first major piece of legislation, and the Republicans are already adding to the national debt. The issue facing our country is jobs. Instead of repealing health care, we should be bringing up a jobs bill like the China currency reform. Where is that bill on the floor with the new majority? Let me tell you what this bill will do. At least in Texas, we will see tragedy happen. 161,000 young adults will lose their insurance coverage through their parents' health care plan. That's only in Texas. 2.8 million Texans who have Medicare coverage will be forced to pay co-pays now for preventative surgeries, or like mammogram services like mammograms and colonoscopies. Medicare will no longer pay for the annual visit of nearly 2.8 million Texans and many more Americans for Medicare. 128,682 Texans on Medicare will receive higher prescription costs if this bill is repealed, its law is repealed. I yield back my time.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from California.
Madam Speaker, could I inquire again of my friend how many more speakers she has remaining at this point?
Certainly, Madam Speaker. I have 4.
Four more speakers. I think with that I'll reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves the balance of his time. The gentlelady from New York.
And I'm pleased to yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Maryland, the ranking member of Government Oversight and Reform, Mr. Cummings.
The gentleman from Maryland is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and I rise in fervent opposition to this rule. Despite ardent promises from Republicans that all bills would be considered under regular order, this resolution has neither been debated nor voted on by a single committee of jurisdiction. Additionally, the recently passed Republican rules package requires that all legislation be fully paid for, and yet the Republican leadership has already publicly declared that they have no intention of paying for what is estimated to be a $230 billion increase in the deficit that the repeal of health reform would create by 2021, according to the Congressional Budget Office. Worse than the Republicans' already broken promises are what this rule and the underlying resolution would do to children, to seniors, and to all Americans who are suffering from illnesses. I strongly oppose this rule and yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from California.
Madam Speaker, at this time I'm happy to yield 1 minute to another great new member, the gentlewoman from Archie, Missouri, Ms. Hartzler, my home state.
The gentleman from Missouri is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, members of the opposite side of the aisle have said that we need to be passing jobs bill. Well, this is a jobs bill because I can testify as a person who's newly elected and been on the campaign trail for a while. In the 4th District, we have small businesses that are not hiring and not expanding because of the health care bill. We have got to repeal this so that we can create more jobs. I'm a small business owner myself, and I can tell you since this has passed that health insurance premiums have skyrocketed in anticipation of the mandates going to be forced on them. So if we want to get serious about creating jobs, we need to start by repealing this. This is also a bill to rein in the runaway spending. That is devastating our country, and it's mortgaging our children's future. And as a mother, that's important to me. This bill put another $1.2 trillion of debt on our country. We cannot afford that. And lastly, this is a freedom bill. The people in my district do not want the government telling them they have to buy a private product and then mandating what is in that product. That is unconstitutional. By passing this last year, you have taken away my freedom, the freedom of the people of the 4th District, and the freedom of this country. We deserve better. Thank you.
Gentlelady from New York.
Madam Speaker, let me inquire of my colleague how many speakers he has left.
Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, let me just say to my friend from Rochester that I will be the final speaker on our side.
Final speaker. All right. You're ready to close.
I'm ready to close.
Very good. Thank you,
How many more
Madam
speakers
Speaker?
does the gentlewoman have?
And I will yield. I have 2 left.
Okay. Thank you.
I would like to yield one of those minutes to Ms. Sutton from Ohio.
The gentlelady from Ohio is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The issue facing this country is jobs. Instead of rushing to the aid of the insurance industry to reinstate their right to engage in egregious discriminatory practices of discriminating against adults and children alike based on pre-existing conditions, instead of allowing the donut hole to continue to bear down on our seniors, we should be passing real jobs legislation. Urgently, we should be bringing up jobs bills that will make a real difference, like putting an end to China's currency manipulation. We've heard the numbers, 2.4 million jobs lost across the country, 92,000 jobs lost in Ohio, and 5,700 jobs have been lost in my congressional district due to China's deliberate and abusive trade policies. We can do something about this issue today, and we should. It makes a real difference. I hope that our friends across the aisle will stand with American businesses and American workers and put an end to the abusive practice of China's currency manipulation.
Gentleman from California.
Madam Speaker, I'll continue to reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman continues to reserve. The gentlelady from New York.
Madam Speaker, I'd like to yield for unanimous consent request to the gentleman, Mr. Butterfield of North Carolina.
I thank the gentlelady. I thank the gentlelady. I ask unanimous consent that my statement be included in the record.
Without objection.
Thank you.
Madam Speaker, I yield 1 minute. The gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Andrews.
The gentleman from New Jersey is recognized for 1 minute. The gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. There are 15 million Americans unemployed as we meet this morning. They do not want us to play politics with health care. They want us to work together to create jobs. There is a job killer loose in America. The job killer is unfair trade practices that force the outsourcing of our jobs. There is a proposal that has broad agreement between Republicans and Democrats to bring fair trade back to America. If we defeat the previous question, we will move to amend the rule to make in order the Currency Reform for Fair Trade Act, which simply says this: as the Chinese have been slamming the door shut on our workers and products, we've been opening our shelves in American department stores. No more of that. No more outsourcing of jobs. No more unfair trade practices. A fair and level playing field for American workers. Let's work together to create jobs and stop the politics and the waste of time of health care. Vote no on the previous question. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from California. The gentleman from California.
Madam Speaker, I'll continue to reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman continues to reserve the balance of his time. The gentlelady from New York.
I would like to pause for unanimous consent request for Mr. Elliot Engel, gentleman from New York.
Gentleman from New York.
I rise in opposition to this amendment. It seems that the openness that the new majority promised us lasted half a day, and the more things change, the more they remain the same. I urge my colleagues to vote no.
That's
gentlelady from New York.
Madam Speaker, if we are able to beat the previous question, I will move to amend the rule to make in order a bill, H.R. 2378 from the last Congress, the Currency Reform for Fair Trade Act, which invokes our anti-dumping laws and provides relief for American workers and companies injured by unfair exchange rate policies. I ask unanimous consent to insert into the record the text of the Currency Reform for the Fair Trade Act.
Without objection.
And I yield to the gentleman from New York for parliamentary inquiry.
Madam Speaker, I have a parliamentary inquiry.
The gentleman will state his inquiry.
Madam Speaker, what is the current whole number of members of the House?
The whole number of the House is 435.
Madam Speaker, further parliamentary inquiry.
The gentleman will state.
Can the Speaker certify that all 435 members have been correctly and duly sworn and taken the oath of office as required under the Constitution?
The Chair is under the information and belief that all 435 members have been sworn.
Thank you.
I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentlelady from New York yields back the balance of her time. The gentleman from California. The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. This is the first act of the 112th Congress, and I have to say that I'm particularly gratified that we've had 6 new members of this 87-member Republican class participate in this debate. Because, Madam Speaker, they have come here with a very, very strong, powerful message from the American people. That message is that we have to make sure that we create jobs and get our economy back on track. Even though we've gotten this positive news of the reduction of the unemployment rate from 9.8 to 9.3% this morning, tragically last month only 105,000 new jobs were created. That's not enough to sustain our economy. You have to create at least 150,000 jobs just to be treading water. And so we know that the American people are continuing to suffer. And the message that has come from the American people through these 87 new members is that we have to have a laser-like focus on creating jobs, getting our economy back on track, and reducing the size and scope and reach of the federal government. My friend Mr. Pence and I had an exchange in which we said only in Washington, D.C. can a $2.7 trillion increase, saying that cutting that, eliminating that, scrapping that will in fact cost money. It's absolutely crazy. But that's what they're arguing, and through their sleight of hand with the Congressional Budget Office, they are continuing to claim that it somehow will save money. Madam Speaker, we are doing what we told the American people we would do. It's very simple. Beginning last year, we said we would have a very clean up or down vote. An up or down vote. Should we maintain this $2.7 trillion expansion with government mandates and increased taxes, or should we repeal it? And that's what we're going to be voting on after the 3-day layover next week. And, Madam Speaker, are we in fact committing ourselves to doing everything that we possibly can to ensure that every single American has access to quality, affordable health care and health insurance? And that's what the resolution that I've introduced, HRES 9, will do. It will direct the 6 committees of jurisdiction to begin immediately working on ways in which we can drive the cost of health insurance down. I personally believe that we need to allow for the purchase of insurance across state lines, which is now forbidden under the McCarran-Ferguson Act. I believe that it's very important for us to have associated health plans so that small businesses can come together and get lower rates. We need to have pooling to deal with pre-existing conditions. We need to expand medical savings accounts. And yes, Madam Speaker, the 5th thing we need to do is we need to have meaningful lawsuit abuse reform so that resources can go towards doctors and not trial lawyers. Now, Madam Speaker, these are the kinds of things that these new members are telling us need to be done, and that's exactly what passage of this rule will make happen. Now, Madam Speaker, let me say I urge support of this rule, and I urge support of the underlying legislation. And once again, with zeal, enthusiasm, and gratitude, I move the previous question.
The question is on ordering the previous question on the resolution. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, say no. No. The ayes have it.
Madam Speaker, I ask for the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered, and members will record their votes by electronic device. Pursuant to Clause 9 of Rule 20, the Chair will reduce to 5 minutes the minimum time for any electronic vote on the question of adoption. This will be a 15-minute vote.
The U.S. House wrapping up the first week of the 112th Congress with a preview of what's likely to dominate next week, and that is debate over health care, in particular repealing the health care law passed last year. We'd like to know your thoughts on that. A couple of ways to do that. We are opening up our phone lines, as you can see. Democrats, your number to call is 202-585-3360. 3885. Republicans, it's 202-585-3886. Independents and others, 202-585-3887. Mute your television or radio when you call in, and if you've called C-SPAN and gotten through in the last 30 days, give others a chance to call in this morning. We'll also open up our Facebook and Twitter pages for your comments. Lots there, and we'll read some of that as well. First, though, Julie Rovner of National Public Radio joins us on the line, who covers health care issues for NPR. Why is today's debate sort of just the opening salvo, really, in the Republican effort to repeal the health care law?
Well, because I think even the Republicans know that though this bill is more than likely to pass when they take it up next week, it's not going anywhere in the Senate. Senate Majority Leader Reid said yesterday what everybody already knew, which is that when this bill gets to the Senate, it's going to be buried. So what Republicans will then do, as we just heard the Rules Committee chairman say, is they're going to go out to the committees, and the committees are going to try other ways to slow down, stop, impede, cause mischief to this health care law. So there will be other efforts to do things to the law rather than get it repealed, because they know they can't do that in the Senate, and even if for some reason they could get it through the Senate, it would be vetoed by President Obama, and they won't have the votes to override that veto. So if they're going to stop this law, they're going to have to find other ways to do it rather than just a full-scale repeal.
Well, the other half of their phrase is replace. So what do Republicans propose to replace the current health care law with?
Well, this is kind of a return to the past. We've seen a lot of these things that have been proposed before. At the top, of course, what we've seen talked about this morning is doing something about medical malpractice lawsuits. This is a bill that Republican-led houses have been passing since 1995 when they first took over the House, and has never gotten through the Senate, either under Democratic or Republican control. So this is a bill that's never even had a chance to get vetoed by a president, even a Republican president, or would have been signed by a Republican president, but's never gotten through the Senate. Things like association health plans, which would let associations sponsor health plans, and then members of those associations could sign up for those plans. There have been such plans before, and they've had a lot of trouble with fraud and abuse. So there's a lot of concern about those possibilities. Another idea is allowing health plans to be sold across state lines. Again, there's been a lot of concern from insurance commissioners and consumer advocates and even governors about the possibility that might be difficult to regulate. So again, these are not new ideas. These are things that have passed the House before, but have never passed the Senate, and I would remark have never passed the Senate, even when the Senate has been controlled by Republicans. So a lot of these ideas are ideas that are not new, but that have never gotten beyond a Republican-controlled, or have gotten beyond a Republican-controlled House, but never gotten out of the Senate.
Well, lastly here, what's the real story with the Congressional Budget Office prediction that the repeal would cost over 10 years $230 billion? Is the Republican Party just dismissing, or does their math add up differently?
Their math adds up differently. I mean, the Congressional Budget Office, you may not believe them, but they are the official arbiter of what things cost. And, there are a lot of different ways to add this up, but the Congressional Budget Office says that this law, as it passed, would pay for itself and would, in fact, reduce the deficit. And, of course, a major reason for that is that there are a lot of taxes in it. That's one of the things that the Republicans hate so much, is that it does include taxes primarily on health care providers. And the health care providers don't like those taxes, but when you raise taxes, you do reduce the deficit. So if you were to take away the law, you would take away the taxes, and the deficit would then go back up. So you can't really have it both ways. There's a lot of things that it's very difficult to estimate about this law, about how well it will work, about whether some of the things that the law proposes to do about trying to slow down the growth of health care spending, whether that will work or not. And, a lot of those things Republicans support, too. A lot of these ideas were in John McCain's health plan when he was running for president have been proposed by the Republican administrations. They go back a long ways. Nobody really knows how to slow health care spending, so those things may or may not work. But the way that the primary way that this bill was going to be paid for was going to be through these taxes and through reductions to payments to providers under Medicare. And so you make those things go away, you will increase the deficit. That's just arithmetic.
Julie Rovner of National Public Radio. Of course, you can hear her work on NPR or at npr.org. Thanks for the update.
Sure.
As you can see on the House floor, the first of a couple of votes here. There's a procedural vote on the health care rule, the repealing of health care law. This is just the opening day here. We'll see the actual debate on the bill next week. We've got our phone lines open. We'll get to those right now, as a matter of fact. We go first to Julian, who's in Omaha, Nebraska, and on our Democrats line. Hi there.
Hello, sir. Man, this thing is really frustrating to Americans just to watch it. I started watching and really getting off into you guys about 6 or 7 years ago, kind of watching what the House and the Senate does. And I'm very disappointed because I am a disabled American that was once declined insurance because of a pre-existing heart condition and had to go out of pocket, lost savings and all this kind of thing to just to get my health, taken care of. And then when the new bill came in and on my wife's job, I was able to get finally some type of insurance. I think, me personally, from going through all this, the health care problem to me is actually an easy thing to do. If you take the profit out of it and we start really actually concerning and start caring about people and really realizing that, the health care in this country, really the richest country in the world, we can solve a problem. We can go around the world and help fight wars and everything. But we do not take care of our own people when it comes to health care. And
let's hear. Thank you for your comments, Julian. Let's hear from Bill in Raleigh, North Carolina. Independent line. Go ahead.
Yes, it's quoting Nancy Pelosi, you have to pass the bill to know what's in it. Well, now that we're finding out what's in it, there are some positives and there's a lot of negatives. But in the last year and a half, now that the Democrats are screaming about job opportunities and jobs, why weren't they doing it over the last year and a half? That's all they talked about was health care. So it seems like the shoe's on the other foot, and now one is always going against the other. Will we get anything ever resolved?
Another view from North Carolina here. This is Asheville. Robinson, go ahead on our Republican line.
Yes, good morning, and thank you for C-SPAN. I was just going to say that in the past 2 years we've heard nothing out of the Democrats but health care. Now they've changed their tune. We've had a kind of a socialistic Marxist regime working in Washington for 2 years, and now it's being tried to get changed a little bit. And I hope that these men have enough courage to follow through, and the people of this country will rise up. And
Robinson, you still there? I think we just lost that connection. Just want to remind you, too, we are taking your comments on our Facebook page and Twitter comments as well. It's cspan.org in the center of the page, or you can go to facebook.com/cspan, twitter.com/cspan. We're also keeping track of what some of the members, including Ed Markey of Massachusetts, who tweets this morning, GOP used to stand for Grand Old Party. With this health care law repeal, it stands for Grandma's Out of Prescriptions. On our Facebook page, another view from Massachusetts. Eric Latham says, living in Massachusetts, I'm living the nightmare of forced care already. This needs to be repealed. Bernice in Texarkana, Texas, on our Democrats line. Go ahead.
I listened to this debate, a lot of it, last year when the Democrats were trying to pass this law, and I know there's a lot in it that we would want to improve on, I really do. But the Republicans dragged their feet the whole time and fought against it. So we finally got it passed, and now they want to repeal it. I think this is tragic. And the Republicans spread lies about this bill throughout the community. People need to start thinking for themselves. And look at our history. I was brought up to think we were a Christian nation.
Let's go next to California. Chuck is in Forest Hill. Do you think he's on our independent line? Chuck, do you think the health care law should be repealed?
Well, let me give you just a brief history of myself. I've been out of work since September of '09. I was self-employed, and I've only been able to find part-time work here and there. And I paid for my own insurance. And my overview on this is that once again we're expecting the people that run the post office to save us money. And it just so happens that one of my part-time jobs was dealing with the post office. And if anybody saw how the post office was really run, they would be shocked.
So
a dock worker makes $54,000 a year salary plus benefits.
So what do you?
So with benefits,
you've been out of work. You said you've been out of work since September 2009. So what are you doing for your health care?
Well, I lived off savings, and these part-time jobs have given me enough money to keep my insurance in force, and it's gone from about and I've got minimum care. I mean, it was a $2 million cap, and just basically catastrophic insurance. So, of course, I'm not going in all the time for checkups or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I did have stitches. And I had to pay for those.
How much did that cost you in the emergency room or something like that?
Yeah, it was about $500. Well, it wasn't an emergency. I went to a Ready Care.
All right, Chuck, we're going to get a couple more calls. We're also keeping an eye on the tweets from some of the members. Representative Dennis Ross, a new rep from Florida, said, about to cast my first vote to kill job-killing, unconstitutional, anti-competitive Obamacare repeal vote next. That's from Dennis Ross of Florida, a Republican. Cal is next on our Democrats line. In Oklahoma, should the health care law be repealed?
No, the health care law should not be repealed. And the Republicans need to understand that, they want to go back to the health care of the past, and they were all jumping up and down saying how high the premiums were going. Well, the premiums will shoot up. We'll get less care anyway, whether they had the health care law or not. And if people want to opt out of the health care law, then they don't need to run to the emergency room when they get sick. They don't need to have the ambulances respond to a car accident, and when they do, find out the person don't have insurance. And if they don't have insurance, then they shouldn't be treated, because I have insurance, and I don't want to pay for those people who don't have insurance running to the emergency room when they get sick. If they can't cover themselves and they opt out of the health care plan, then they need to opt out of all care. They need to not run to the emergency room, and they need to make a law that says emergency rooms and every other health care provider don't have to treat you if you come in and you have something to be treated for.
A couple more calls here. Paul is next in Minnesota as the House continues, in Michigan, as the House continues in this procedural vote ahead of the final vote on the rule for repealing health care. Paula in Minnesota on our Republican line. Go ahead.
I'm in Michigan.
My mistake.
That's okay.
It's Friday.
Yeah, I know. I say no. This country is just so beautiful and so great, and if we can't offer 95% of our population health insurance, it's a shame. We pay the third lowest taxes in the world, and this is just a shame. If they want to tweak it, when it comes into effect, many of these things don't even come into effect to 2014. Tweak it then. But don't repeal what's already. We've spent 2 years on this. Let's get on with jobs. Health care bill will create jobs. I have 2 of my neighbors, their kids are already in the health care profession because of this bill. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
On our independent line, Jack in Pennsylvania. Hi there.
Good morning. I'm just wondering why they have to repeal this law first. Why don't they show us what they want to pass and let us decide which health care plan we want? It's real easy to say appeal, and we will. There was many years where they had a chance to do something and they didn't. Show us what you want to do, and let us see what you want to do, and let us see what the bill is that exists.
Cindy is in Mason, Texas on our Republican line. What about repealing health care? Are you in favor of it?
I think they need to repeal it immediately because it's wreaking havoc on working people already before most of the provisions even go into effect. My daughter is a single mother, and she's working 3 jobs, and she's losing her health insurance because the premiums have gone up exponentially since they passed this bill. The insurance companies are going to pay for who they have to cover, and by mandating that they don't have to exclude people with pre-existing conditions, they are passing that expense on to the people that have health insurance. So she's losing her coverage. And I have another close family friend who has health problems. He's got heart concerns, and his medication, he told me last week, went from $268 a month to $684 a month since they passed this Obamacare. And I think that there are a lot of good people who intended for this to be a good thing, but you can't pass a 2,000-page bill without reading it and expect that everything is going to be as they're portraying it to be.
Well, as you might expect, the administration has released their statement on the efforts by Republicans to repeal the health care law. The administration strongly opposes House passage of H.R. 2 because, they write, it would explode the deficit, raise costs for the American people and businesses, deny an estimated 32 million people health insurance, and take us back to the days when insurers could deny, limit, or drop coverage for any American. Let's go to Beverly Hills, and this is Cal on our Democrats line.
People are always saying that the price of health care is going to go up. The price of health care is going to go up whether we have a bill in place or not. And they want to repeal health care, but they have nothing to put in its place. They can repeal health care and then wait another 10 years to replace it. And on top of all off, they know that it's not going to get through the Senate. It's not going to get past the president. Why are they wasting time? Why don't they just do the job thing?
The vote is winding down here. Just a 44 left to go. We're going to get one more call from Ohio, Manfred, Ohio, and this is Glenn on our Independence line. Hi.
Hi, it's actually Manfred, Oklahoma.
My mistake again. Go ahead,
Glenn.
Okay.
I'm disabled. I was injured on the job in 1999. I was allowed to keep my health insurance through the company I work for, which is the second largest oil company in the country. When Obamacare passed, I was forced onto Medicare as my primary insurance. Since then, my costs on my medications, everything else have skyrocketed. I agree that this health care bill should be repealed, but there are parts of this bill that are good and parts that are bad. When we were told we would be allowed to keep our insurances by the Democrats, we were lied to. This bill needs to be, changed.
You said, Glenn, you said you were forced onto Medicare. How did the health care law do that?
Well, what happened is in January of this year, I had my company's health insurance as my primary. According to the company, there was an omnibus bill passed that allows them to dump their disabled people onto Medicare after 2 years, even though the company offers health insurance, which is wrong.
Hey, we thank you for your opinion. Thanks for all the calls, and remind you that the conversation continues online as usual. Click onto our links to Facebook and to Twitter to weigh in with your thoughts at cspan.org.
On this vote, the yeas are 236 and the nays are 182. The previous question is ordered. The question is on adoption of the resolution. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed say no. The ayes have it.
Request a recorded vote, Madam Speaker.
A recorded vote. is requested. Those favoring a recorded vote will rise. A sufficient number having risen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote.
The House is now voting on the rule that will allow them to take up the actual bill, H.R. 2, the repeal of the health care law, a rule that would provide for 7 hours of general debate next week. It's scheduled for Wednesday, the 12th of January, so that's ahead. But the House isn't quite through their legislative work for the day. Once they finish this vote, they still have to deal with the issue you may have heard about yesterday, where a couple of members failed to get sworn in properly, and it caused some discussion not only on the floor here today, but in the Rules Committee yesterday. The Hill blog on their floor blog writes about this morning. They say that the rule under consideration today also includes the language that allows the House to consider a measure aimed at addressing the problems that were related to the failures of Pete Sessions and Mike Fitzpatrick, both Republicans, to get sworn into office. They say that Section 3 of this rule that is being voted on will allow them to consider a resolution relating to the status of those members-elect. So what they will do is you'll get a couple of minutes, 4 minutes of debate over resolving that issue of the two members who were not sworn in properly initially on Wednesday. But here, in this 5-minute vote, this is the one on the rule again for the health care repeal, and if it passes, you'll see that debate next week, 7 hours worth on the House floor next Wednesday. A vote on the rule for consideration of H.R. 2. That's the bill, the proposed bill on the repeal of the health care law. Now, that debate won't happen today. It'll happen next week. This rule would allow for 7 hours of general debate. I'm not taking your phone calls during this vote, but I want to remind you that the conversation continues online. You can weigh in with our question, should the health care law be repealed? You can tweet your comments, post your comments on Facebook, and all of that is linked off our homepage at cspan.org. A couple of thoughts here from Chris Wigington, who writes, Republicans just want to kill people so their insurance company friends can buy more stuff. Debbie writes that, do people actually read? The government does not control your health care decisions. Marianne writes that insurance premiums have gone up since they passed this terrible bill. Welcome your comments, cspan.org. Click on the Facebook icon or the Twitter icon and join in the conversation.
On this vote, the yeas are 236, the nays are 181, 2 are present. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. The House will be in order. The House will be in order. The House will be in order. All members and staff will take their conversations from the floor. Members, please take seats. Purpose, does the gentleman from Massachusetts rise?
Madam Speaker, I am sitting on the floor of the House of Representatives.